Innovation, imagination, wonder. These are just some of the words used to describe Dr. Harvey Passes. Dr. Passes explores interesting people and ideas that will stimulate you. He questions the people who develop, create, and employ novel concepts in business and everyday lives. He especially loves to speak with successful people. How did they do it? How can you do it too? So let's join Dr. Harvey Passes in his quest of wonder and curiosity as we watch Dr. Harvey Passes Presents.
I've got a story for you. You enjoy stories? I want you to meet someone. Dee Olsen, and you'll learn more about Dee in a few minutes. Dee has graciously accepted to come down here to share a story. So let's take a moment. Let's listen to Dee's story, and then we'll come back and you'll see what this is all about. Take a seat. You're going to need it for this one. Take a seat. Hi, Dee.
Hi, Harvey. How are you?
Great. Thanks for coming down.
Thank you for having me.
Dee, tell me a story.
Well, I've got quite an interesting story. In 2001, my husband and I had a 2-year-old son, and we were expecting our second child. I had a very typical pregnancy with no issues or complications, and the time came for our child to be delivered. And upon her birth, I had the baby, and at that moment where everyone says it's a boy or it's a girl, the baby came out, and as the nurse wiped her skin down, her skin actually came with it, and it was quite disturbing. She began to bleed, and we had a terrible, terrible scare. And I will never forget that moment when normally they say it's a boy, it's a girl, and my husband standing there, and the doctors also standing with him, and their heads are just tilted to the side, absolutely bewildered by the fact that this poor baby was bleeding. It came to pass within a few hours, the dermatologist came by and diagnosed our daughter, Jade, as having ectodermal dysplasia.
Ectodermal dysplasia. Go ahead.
It's an umbrella term for 150 genetic disorders, each one being relatively unique, but all having the same common thread of abnormalities with the hair, the teeth, the skin, and also finger and toenails.
So you had this amazing, rare experience after you gave birth to your little girl, Jade.
Yes.
And obviously you had your work cut out for you.
It was
spades.
Yes, yes. We didn't know what to expect. And in my daughter's case, she has Goltz syndrome. It's one of the more rare syndromes. She's only one of about 300 or 400 in the world with this particular syndrome.
Spell Goltz?
Goltz.
Okay. So she has this Goltz syndrome, and very few people have this around here.
Oh yes, absolutely. She's one, as I said, of 300 or 400 in the world. Now there are other syndromes and people who live locally with other syndromes.
With a type of ectodermal dysplasia.
Yes, but in her case, hers was rare, and it required all kinds of things. As she was born, they knew something was terribly wrong. They also knew that she was basically missing an eye. Her eye was very small and misshapen. They didn't know if she was going to survive because they didn't know if she was missing parts of her brain or lungs or heart. So it was very, very scary upon those first few days. But we came to learn that she was going to survive. She was going to be okay. And within a few months, she would have many services, at least 8 appointments a week for physical therapy, occupational therapy, feeding therapy, and vision services.
So it hasn't been a piece of cake for her. That's not a simple thing. There's a lot of effort. And your child came into the world having to struggle.
Oh, yes, she did. She really struggled. She really struggled.
She must be some little girl.
She's such a She's such a trooper. She was born on George Foreman's birthday, and we like to think she's the little boxer.
A little fighter.
Yeah, little fighter.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so, excuse me, so where we're going with all this, and that's the reason why I wanted you to join us and kind of listen in on this, because this is a very interesting story about a condition that, frankly, there's only about, what, 10,000 people in the world?
Well, it affects 1 out of every 12,000 births.
So you can do the math, but it's kind of small.
Yep. It may be a little higher.
Maybe a little higher than that. So what I wanted to do was share with you on about a condition called ectodermal dysplasia, which we said earlier affects it's a genetic disorder affecting the hair and the teeth and the nails, the skin. I got it all right for the most part?
I should explain to you, sometimes it presents in the teeth particularly, either there are completely no teeth or the teeth are cone-shaped.
Right.
And that's, it's a distinguishing factor.
Right, which I've seen in my practice on occasion through the years. Mm-hmm. I've seen people have this, and it's not a simple thing to treat for various reasons. So I'm glad that you came down so we can discuss this, and we can let other people know a little bit more about this. First of all, is there an organization that can help people with this condition? And what's it called?
There absolutely is. There's one teeny tiny little organization. It is called the National Foundation for Ectodermal Dysplasias. It's located in Mascoutah, Illinois, and it's run by 9 women. And the reason why it's so remarkable is because it services the entire world. Anyone who's struggling anywhere in the world with any one of these 150 different syndromes can contact the National Foundation for Ectodermal Dysplasias and receive a wealth of information.
Okay, so let me ask you some questions. Are any of your other family members or your husband, anybody affected with this?
No, my husband and I are not affected, and we have an older son who is also not affected, and our younger daughter who is also not affected. In Jade's particular case, it's what's considered
spontaneous.
Spontaneous.
A spontaneous change
Exactly.
in the gene to have brought this on.
Yep.
So does ectodermal dysplasia affect a particular race, a particular gender? Who can get this, or it's kind of like, it's anybody can get it?
Anybody can get it. It doesn't particularly affect any race or gender.
I like conditions, disorders that are really non-prejudicial. Give it to everybody. It doesn't matter. That's good, democratic.
It is democratic. A little unfortunate.
Okay, so anybody can wind up with this. Now, how was the foundation started? This is such a rare condition.
It's a rare condition, and it's a wonderful foundation. It was started about 28 years ago by a wonderful woman named Mary Kay Richter, who had a son born with one of the ectodermal dysplasias. Mm-hmm. And she had nowhere to turn. And she developed this foundation with a friend of hers in this small town, and they just grew to service the world. And her son's name is Charlie. He's a huge advocate for the foundation, and they do a tremendous amount of work and raise money and lobby in Albany and do some very helpful things for so many people around the world.
Earlier we were speaking about this, and I'm just trying to figure out a way to put it in because I like it when you discussed it. Why would a child or anyone who has ectodermal dysplasia, why would they sing Christmas time, or why would this song during Christmas, "All I Want for Christmas is my 2 front teeth"? Why is that song significant?
It's so significant, and most of us can't imagine what it's like not to have teeth. Without teeth, you can't eat properly, you can't bite into an apple or things that are so nutritious that balance out an entire diet. You can't speak properly without teeth, you
Right.
know how that is. And that's all minor in comparison with what it does for your self-esteem. Mm-hmm. So these kids not only want 2 front teeth, they need a full set of dentures. They need a full set of dentures for those reasons, mostly for you know, for eating and
Absolutely,
speaking.
for functioning. No
For
question about it.
functioning.
I'm going to ask my camera person here to get a close-up. I'm going to show you something here. Here's a newsletter. It's an update on research supported by the National Foundation for Ectodermal Dysplasias, winter 2009. It's called Connecting Lives. And researchers pinpoint causes for skin fragility, meaning the skin is so delicate and it just falls off in these patients. See, take a look at this. This is one child, 2 years old, Ryan?
Yes, Ryan Geismar is a little boy in town. This is Ryan when he was 2. And he was born with severe skin erosion on 80% of his body.
Can you get in a little closer? Or that's it? That's it? Okay. And I mean, this is 2 years old. Look at it. He just doesn't have the skin. And it affects all the parts of the body. It's amazing. And let me just see the other kids over here as well. Here we go. So my hand get out of the way. See these little kids, and it's just amazing. Okay, thank you. To see this, there are.
And I should
Go
mention
ahead, go ahead.
Ryan Geismar has come such a long way since then.
I see him in school at times.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
He's a wonderful little boy, and he's come so far. He's a true fighter.
Here's a picture of a gentleman. His name is Joe Barone, who's 87 years old, who finally is the oldest member and one of the first 30 members of the organization. And he just got his brand new smile that really says it all, because not having teeth, here's another shot here. That's again from the website, which we're going to give you that information in a minute. And he's finally thrilled that he's got teeth, 87 years old. It was just so difficult for him to be able to get teeth. Thank you. That's great. For all these years. Talk to me about how can patients with this disorder be helped? I mean, there's no cure.
There is no cure, but we're getting closer to a cure. We're raising as much money as we possibly can, and a substantial amount of that money goes to research. And with the research, we've been able to find the genes that my daughter's Gold syndrome is on, and also the other forms of the ectodermal dysplasia. Mm-hmm. By doing that, you get closer to finding a cause. So some major strides have been made through research.
And you get closer to finding a cure.
Yes.
Okay,
excuse
is that a
me.
cause?
Yes,
right,
no,
okay.
a cure.
Okay. Now, tell me a little bit. I know you've got your Halloween bash. What is the Halloween bash?
It's actually Ruth Geismar's Halloween bash, and she has a huge Halloween party every year in the city that is for the sole purpose of raising money for ectodermal dysplasia. Mm-hmm. And we have many families from Long Island and New York and the surrounding area who attend this big party to raise money for that cause. And the women from the foundation come in and they speak, and often Charlie's there and he discusses his story. And it's a wonderful evening, open to the community. Mm-hmm. It's a very warm, friendly feeling because it is about the children, for the children.
Absolutely. I'd like to take a moment here right now and ask my crew, can you put on the slate right now so if people want to learn more about this condition, they'll be able to know how to contact. There it is, the National Foundation for Ectodermal Dysplasia. And you could see there's a number of ways. One is www.nfed.org. And you also have the phone number there. That's tough for me to read. What is it? It's 816-566?
I think it's 618.
618. I couldn't see it with my glasses on.
566-2020.
Good. At least your eyes are better than mine. Okay. That's important. And we'll put it up later again if there's more information that you need to know about this. I'm sure some people look at this and say, wait a minute, is this contagious?
Many people do, especially children. My daughter, now being 7 years old, has a difficult time, especially after the summer months when her skin that is intact is very brown and her skin that is not intact is very white, if not red. Mm-hmm. So September always poses problems. She goes into the classroom and children who don't know her think that she has a contagious rash. Mm-hmm. And because of that, I often go into the schools, the local schools, and I discuss diversity. and I do that with...
Explain how you do that. I like that.
It's a little trick that I learned from the foundation, and we do it with M&Ms. And I spend hours separating M&Ms of all colors and then kind of rearranging them so each cup is unique from the next. And each child gets a clear cup with maybe all red M&Ms with a few white or something in there, because I find them in all colors. And we discuss how each M&M is different. Each cup of M&Ms is different. And we discuss how we're all different on the outside, maybe. And I encourage each child to discuss, do you have a mole or maybe a fingernail or something that's a little different about you? And we talk about how their M&Ms are different on the outside. And then we discuss how we're all the same on the inside. Whether you're an adult or you're a child, we all have the same feelings. Mm-hmm. And then we put it in a big bowl and they mix it up, and of course we eat them at the end.
What are the long-term medical needs of someone with ectodermal dysplasia?
That's a good question and a difficult question because...
Because of 150 types?
Exactly. So there are people who are born with this who may have a finger or two on each hand, or someone who doesn't have any feet. Jade has a little friend, Madison, who's blind in both eyes and deaf in both ears, and she's constantly having surgeries for one thing or another. So it really varies, because in many cases, in all cases, it's mostly dental. So we have a tremendous amount of need for dentures. Mm-hmm. In some cases, it's life-threatening. So it really runs the gamut as far as the needs and the complications.
Very interesting. I told you earlier before we began the show that at some point we could have a conversation with dentistry and how possibly maybe I can help, some people with this, so we can see.
That would be wonderful.
We can discuss that. Now, what's your particular role as a family liaison?
I represent a number of states in the East Coast. Virginia, West Virginia, New Jersey, New York, Delaware, and I assist families in those areas. There's probably around 500 families with any questions or concerns that they may have. And it's interesting how we all seem to have the same questions, and we start to see the same doctors or the same specialists, or maybe share the name of a hospital. So I try and help them as best I can, maybe matching their family with another family sharing the same disorder. In many cases, I refer them back to the National Foundation for Ectodermal Dysplasias, or sometimes we're able to meet up at a family conference.
Talk to me. That was a question that I had for you about the conferences. How many times a year are they given? They must be given like on either a regional basis, certainly not Long Island, but a regional basis, or is it a national basis, or both?
It's a national basis. There are regional conferences from time to time, but on an annual basis there is a nationwide conference, and people actually come from all over the world. It's not necessarily a worldwide conference, but it is...
Just turns out that way.
Yes. It is an unbelievable opportunity for children and adults alike to gather together as families and share their struggles.
Where are some of these conferences held?
They're always, they're held from, they vary from year to year.
Various cities.
Yes, but the thing that's most interesting about them, and they're always held in July, and they're about 4 days. They are jam-packed with different symposiums and different lectures. And
do doctors come down there and present?
Yes. Not only do they present, but they are available the entire time. They sit on the board, and they're there the entire time, and they will answer any question any family has. They do research. They do all kinds of studies and testing. It's an invaluable experience for the doctors and for the families. We also participate by going to the local hospital wherever we are and discussing, presenting to the doctors there and dermatologists about ectodermal dysplasia. So we always try and do a little teaching whenever we're doing a conference also.
These various, since it's not one, it's as you say, it's 150 types. How does medical, how does different various medicines affect this? Or that's really not an issue? In other words, for example, if a child sits in my chair and who has ectodermal dysplasia of one type or another, and I want to give them a local anesthetic to work on the tooth, I wonder, my experience in the past was that they really don't feel anything anyway, that the teeth really don't have much sensation. What do you know about that?
Because every disorder is different, we find the opposite.
Heightened sensitivity.
Exactly. My daughter doesn't like ice cream because it's too cold for her, and never any ice in her drinks because it's too cold.
So there's no problem giving these children Novocaine.
Not that I'm aware of.
And it doesn't aggravate the condition at all.
Not that I'm aware of, but because I said there are so many different disorders, there may be cases.
So when a family goes to one of these conferences and it ends, and I'm assuming they leave Sunday night, Sunday afternoon, okay, probably like midday, so people can get on the planes. What do they go away with? Hope?
Everyone leaves with hope. The children connect and make lifelong friends. It's amazing for them to be able to see other children just like them. My daughter, being one of 300 or 400 in the world, is able to see other kids who have exactly what she has, and they, compare notes, and they have an immediate bond and a closeness. And the same for fathers. When a father meets another father who's had that same struggle, or a mother, and like I said, through that conference, there's bonding time, there's learning time, there's research time. And you leave the conference feeling so rewarded.
That's good to know. I'm always thinking in terms of community, helping the community. But here's the reverse. What can the community do to help?
Oh, well, I would love for anyone, especially this holiday season in the Two Front Teeth song, to just at the very least visit the website www.nfed.org and take a look. There's a video on there that explains so much more than I've explained to you, and there's so much to see, and personal stories, and maybe someone would consider donating if they were so inclined.
Right. What is the longevity of someone's life with ectodermal dysplasia? Or again, it varies?
It varies. In most cases, it's pretty typical, and it's not life-threatening, but in some cases it is life-threatening, and there have been children who have not survived their struggle.
You mentioned something about there are various kinds, and one kind in particular usually shortens the life of males as opposed to females?
Actually, yes. My daughter's syndrome, Gold syndrome, is normally lethal, fatal in males, because the abnormalities are so severe that the fetuses don't make it to term.
Do you ever go to school when she goes to school, the beginning of the year? You mentioned it earlier, and I mean, and help her to acclimate herself, or to acclimate the kids in the class who don't know her?
Outside of my diversity presentation with the M&Ms, I really don't. She goes in and she's learned her struggle. She wears a prosthetic eye. She knows on some days it bothers her and she may have to remove it, and she has to, but she's used to fighting her little fight. She's pretty good at that.
So you've raised her then to be sufficient, self-sufficient.
I think she just came that way. But
You're funny. You're funny. Now your background is you're a social worker?
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about that.
I'm a certified social worker, and I practice locally, and I have a small private practice, and I enjoy that work very much.
Do you find having that background has been an invaluable skill or trait for you with this whole experience you've lived?
I think so. I think I've been exposed to diversity and prejudice, and those kind of challenges, and overcoming those kind of challenges. We're trying to.
Just fascinating. And how does she get along with her older brother? Like two kids?
Like any two kids.
Like any two kids.
Exactly.
Except that he can't be a wise guy and do anything physical to hit her.
Yes, we've never had any sharp objects in my house for the obvious eye issues, but yeah, he wouldn't hit her, but he'll give us all a run.
I mean, kids do all these crazy kind of things, so one has to be careful. When is the next conference?
The next conference will be held in July, and it'll be in Virginia.
Oh.
Yes, it'll probably be around the 20th, I believe. I would encourage any families who are affected to attend. It's always such a rewarding experience. And sometimes there are families that can't afford to attend, and money that's donated to the foundation can assist families who've never been before and may need to see a doctor or may want to participate in the conference.
Right, absolutely. What would you like to see done for people with ectodermal dysplasia? After having lived this for 7 years, I mean, what's missing?
I just think.
Does the government show any interest at all?
No, the government, that's what's so remarkable about this small foundation, is that they do so much having no government funding at all. So what I would love to see is, I'd love to see the charity continue to grow. I'd love to see children who do not have teeth get dentures. There are so many other complications. There are breast issues with young women where they have absolutely no breast tissue at all.
Oh my God.
Yes, there are many people who don't have any hair at all and can't afford wigs. There are children, especially who live in the hotter climates, that don't sweat properly. That's another very common factor among ectodermal dysplasias, is the inability to sweat properly. And those complications are tremendous. If you can't cool your body down, it leads to seizures, possible death. That's another thing that's very big. So cooling vests are also something that the charity provides someone who may not be able to purchase one for themselves.
This is a tough question to ask, but I'll ask it anyway. What do you feel the future holds for your daughter, Jade?
I know that she'll continue to have her struggles. I know that she'll, and not only, socially, that's pretty much the least of it. I know she'll have medical issues that come up, and they have. At 2 years of age, she developed a papilloma on her lip and had to have surgery for that and something else. And she's had things spring up. So I know we're always prepared. I think when we're faced with the difficult news, we always stand as strong as possible. And when we're faced with good news, as a dentist, you'll appreciate when she was given x-rays and they found out that she had a second set of teeth. And that's when we cried. We cry when we hear the good news. We stay strong when we hear the difficult news. So I'm sure she'll meet her struggles fine, but she'll definitely have them.
Well, I know she's got a pretty tough mom who's, I know you for a few years already, and, I see the way you are, even, when we've crossed our paths, obviously, with the Cub Scouts and the Boy Scouts, So, I've seen you in action, and you're very thorough, you're very caring, you're very good at what you do. You're a real people person. So I can see that this flows over to her as well, and your determination. So she's very lucky that if she had to pick someone to be born to, it was you.
Aww.
So I pay you that little kudo here to tell you that. We're just about out of time. There's about maybe like a minute left. What parting comments could you make to my viewer at home about this?
Maybe, just as I said before, take a look on the website. I'm sure they'll find something that really touches them and moves them, and just think about it next time you're at the dentist, maybe.
Yeah, maybe let a lot of dentists know about this too as well.
That
they should
would be
be
great.
Aware of it, absolutely. But that's my job, Terrific. Dee Olsen, thank you very much for coming down, sharing your story, and getting the message and the information out.
Well, thank you.
Because you just don't know. You never know what can happen. But if you don't let it be known, then guaranteed nothing's going to happen. Squeaky wheel gets all the grease, as they say.
That's
it's terrific.
Right.
Put it there, kid.
Thank you so much.
Terrific. Thank you very much for coming down. And see you around the Cub Scouts.
Okay.
Okay, and I hope to see you again next time. And I hope you got a lot out of this, because this was a very interesting topic, and not a light topic, but nonetheless very interesting and knowledgeable. Okay, see you again next time. Got to go right now. And just like Dee Olsen, whatever you do it with passion, or what's the use? Take care. Bye.
Thank you.